Hi, if you are a student and you plan to go to abroad for your higher education and you keep Australia as one of your destination country, two things usually the students need to plan. One is your tuition fees and another one is your living expenses. So people look for living expenses budget in different sources. And here I'm going to show you today an interesting website which is a government organized website is going to show you how to budget your living expenses in Australia. The beauty of this website is going to ask you a few simple questions. The moment you give the input, it's going to calculate roughly how much budget is going to require for you to live in that particular city. Not just in one city, it's going to give you in multiple cities. So it doesn't matter which city your university and the campus is located, still you are able to identify the cost of living which you need to budget for. Let's get into the website. The URL you need to type in is costofliving.studyaustralia.gov.au. It is a government initiative website and it's going to ask you a number of questions. The first question it is asking you is, which city would you like to live in? And it's giving you about 8 options, which are Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, Canberra, Adelaide, Hobart and Darwin. So let me to click Melbourne or Sydney. So today I'm clicking Melbourne and then I go to the next question. It's a very simple 9 questions, and whether you want to stay in the city or in the suburbs, which are the outskirts. So I would like to live, say for an example, in suburbs. Most of the students love to live in suburbs. So the question is, what type of accommodation are you interested in? There are 4 type of accommodation options is given here. So the first one is homestay, where you stay and live with a family, as a local family, where you pay a certain amount of fee as a monthly charges towards the family so that you can comfortably live and study and work, whatever you want to do. And the homestay is an option. And shared house is basically number of the students or candidates going to rent an apartment and they're going to share the cost. So that's a shared house. And 1-bedroom unit is an individual 1-bedroom unit where it's more like a studio apartment, or it's a 1-bedroom apartment where you live alone. The whole the flat is yours. So such a facilities are available. And the managed apartments as run by professional organizations where they're going to give you a twin share, individual or multiple share accommodations where the community or a common kitchen is available. So today most popular one is a shared house. So I'm going to click for the shared house option, and then from here I go to the next one, and then comes to your transport. How often will you be using this form of transport? So the first one is bicycle, which popularly they call it as a push bike. So I would say that I would buy a bicycle, which is not very expensive. So I'll say sometimes I use it. And public transport is quite often, as a student we will use it. So either I can put sometimes or often. Today I'm clicking that as often. The next question is a car transport. How often you use the car? Either you own the car or you rent the car, how often you use it. So generally students don't buy or own a car immediately they land. It may take about a year or a year and a half. So in this case, sometimes you use a car. Probably I'll just keep it sometimes is an option. And the next question is how often you take the taxi, Uber or any of this, the other paid taxi services. I would say sometimes I'll use it. So that's the case. Most of the time people, when they work part-time, when they finish their work very late, they take the taxi to reach home. So that's how I keep it, as few times you might take it in a month. So the next questions is, how many times a week will you be eating out? As you being a student, you'll be very busy because you're doing your full-time studies and working part-time, and time is a key. So in this kind of a constraint, how much time you manage your food. Say for an example, let's say breakfast. Breakfast is something most of the time we'll have it at home, because before you go into the university or work, you have your breakfast. So I would say that maybe one day I eat out, right? So I'm not going to eat out very regularly for breakfast. And comes to lunch, I would say something like say about 4 days a week, because you will be going to university, from there you go straight to work, so maybe about 4 days a week you will eat out. And dinner, it's purely up to you. So basically I would say that 1 day a week I will have my dinner outside, because most of the time students will go to university, go to work, come back and have the dinner at home. So it's going to be 1 day, maybe a weekend, you have your dinner out. So go to the next question. What price range does your food fit into? So you can have a wide range of option to have your food. You can go to a simple cafe, have your food, or you go to an expensive restaurant, have your food. So in this case, I would say I'll keep it a little moderate. So you're not going for very cheap and you're not going for very expensive. So I stick to this option of moderate, and to select my food. And when eating out, basically that I would say maybe I'll go for a moderate food. So basically that the food we don't want to compromise, right? So obviously that we need something is very basic, but still it should be quality food. And the next question is, what level of services of products do you require? So as you being a student, these are the services most probably you use it very often, especially people who are really very health conscious. Gym, obviously that you want to go for a cheap gym or a moderate gym or an expensive gym, but primarily a gym is something which you want to select something close to your house or close to your workplace. So I would say keep it moderate, right? And haircut is something which is not very cheap in Australia. So students always look for which is the best deal for haircut. So in this case, I select something like a cheap haircut. And cosmetics is something which you don't want to take a chance. So obviously I just select a moderate option. And mobile plan, usually it is very, very important you being an international student, because you often use an international call in Australia, especially when you call abroad. Majority of the countries where the students are coming in, there are fantastic attractive plans are available where the outgoing itself is quite inexpensive or it is free. So I would say moderate is an option. And then I move to the next one is, what price range do your cloth purchases fit into? So obviously that when you travel abroad, you always carry your cloth, but when you go there, you really feel that you need to match yourself with the local trend. So I would say that I may not go for a very expensive brand as being a student, but I'll stick to the moderate one, and then probably I will buy maybe 1 or 2 cloths a month. And the next question is, how often will you do these activities? So look at this, there are mostly entertainment activities. So basically cinemas. So if you're not a very movie buff, so basically that you go for maybe a weekly or a fortnightly movie. And music is something that are sports, you really wanted to contribute yourself, so that you want to do a weekly once. And social sports and group classes, so something like, if you want to go for a stadium or something, enjoy a sporting activity, so that's something probably monthly once as being a student. So let's click that option. And night out, so if you are really busy working 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and you're going to the university 4 days a week, you really find it very difficult to have your time to go to night out. So I would say fortnightly you go to the night out. So that's very reasonable, you do twice a month. So when we process the details, it is showing you an approximate living expenses for each city. So this is a weekly expenses which is showing. It's about $863 per week. It may be looking very steep, but look at the breakup. That is where the quite interesting fact is, because it's giving you about $243 for accommodation. As I've been a student, as well as we've been processing number of students, when I talk to a lot of the students for the last 15 to 20 years, obviously that I found this particular numbers are quite high, but definitely the reality, if you really wanted to cut down the budget, there are scope of you can do that. Let's see where are the areas you can even cut down your budget. Because if you look at the accommodation is about $243 per week, but generally when you go for a shared accommodation, so something around about $150 to $175 is more than enough to get a very good accommodation in a shared environment. And transport is about $127, because majority of the students will look for public transport. The public transport is not going to cost you much, because you're not going to use tickets on a daily basis. You're going to take a monthly card or a pass where your cost of transport will come down drastically. The food is about $186. Definitely, when you look for your own cooking and then manage your food very effectively, even this budget even cut down by about 30 to 40%. And the personal expense is not much, it's about $50, which is very reasonable. Clothing is very reasonable, it's about $28 per week. And then the entertainment, because it's giving a big scope of entertainment, is about $230. So as you being a student, you really need to ask yourself, you want to spend that money or you want to save that money, because that itself is going to about $1,000 per month. But the good thing is this site is going to give you an idea how to break up your living expenses and what are the heads you will be spending those money, so that how you can manage it better. And I hope this particular information and this particular website give you an eye-opener how to plan your living expenses in Australia very effectively. See you soon in another video.